Felix Auger-Aliassime just said something about Alex Eala that most people completely missed. He is ranked among the best players in the world. She was ranked 147 just 2 years ago. And now, only days before the US Open, these two are preparing to walk onto the same court together as mixed doubles partners. So here is the question that keeps getting harder to ignore. Why Felix? Why Alex? Out of every player available in the draw, why did these two end up together? You probably already have an easy answer. Their agencies talked. The teams made a deal. Somebody signed the paperwork. Business, nothing more. Except Felix did not make it sound that simple. When Tennis Channel asked him how the pairing came together, he could have given a quick answer and moved on. Instead, he kept explaining. And somewhere inside that explanation, he used a phrase that changes the entire way this partnership looks. He called it a natural connection. That sounds harmless. But when you stop and think about who Felix is, who Alex has become, and where both players are heading into the final Grand Slam of the season, those words suddenly carry a lot more weight. Because Alex Eala has spent this season doing things that were never supposed to happen this quickly. She beat an Olympic champion. She defeated a 4-time Grand Slam winner. She walked into Washington, D.C., and went through elite competition one after another. Then she lifted the biggest singles trophy of her career. And she did not do it by waiting for an opportunity. She took it. So when a player carrying that kind of momentum suddenly gets paired with one of the biggest names in men's tennis at the US Open, you have to look beyond the obvious explanation. This may not be the beginning of Alex Eala's rise. It may be proof that the tennis world already sees her differently. But before we understand why this pairing matters, we have to rewind. Because 2 years ago, Alex Eala was nowhere near this conversation. She was ranked around world number 147. She was grinding through qualifying. She was playing on courts where cameras were scarce and crowds were smaller. These are the matches that rarely make headlines. Nobody talks about them. Nobody celebrates them. And for many young players, that is where the dream quietly disappears. Alex did the opposite. She kept climbing. She kept collecting wins. She kept walking onto courts against players with bigger names and refusing to behave like an underdog. Then came Washington. At the Mubadala DC Open, Eala produced the kind of run that can completely change how the tennis world looks at a player. She defeated Qin Wenjing, an Olympic gold medalist. Then came Naomi Osaka, a 4-time Grand Slam champion. And suddenly Alex was standing in the final against Jessica Pegula, one of the highest-ranked players in women's tennis. She lost the opening set, 4-6. For most players, that moment creates doubt. The opponent is ranked higher. The final is already slipping away. The pressure is enormous. But Alex did not collapse. She changed the direction of the match. And eventually, she produced a decisive final set that ended 6-0. Think about that for a second. A 21-year-old player who was ranked outside the top 100 not long ago was standing across the net from an established top player in a turf final, and completely took over the deciding set. That is not the profile of somebody waiting for her breakthrough. That is the profile of somebody who has already arrived. And the reaction afterward made the moment even bigger. Rafael Nadal, whose academy in Mallorca played an important role in Eala's development after she left home as a teenager, publicly recognized her achievement and the work behind it. Other legends and major voices in tennis began taking notice. Suddenly, Alex was no longer just a promising young Filipina player. She was becoming a name that established tennis figures were willing to talk about. And then came another number that should make people stop. Her record against top 10 opponents. 9 wins. 4 losses. A winning record against some of the best players in the world. For a player this young, that is not a small detail. It tells you something about how she responds when the opponent is supposed to be better. Alex does not seem intimidated by the ranking beside the other player's name. She seems to see the ranking as just another number. And that brings us back to Felix. Because agencies do not randomly attach 2 high-profile athletes to each other. There is business involved, of course. Commercial value matters. Visibility matters. The US Open is one of the biggest stages in tennis. But there is something else agencies understand better than almost anyone. A pairing sends a message. Every time 2 athletes appear together, people start making comparisons. Fans talk. Sponsors notice. Media outlets react. And suddenly, the partnership itself becomes part of the story. So when Felix Auger-Aliassime is standing next to Alex Eala, the question is not simply why they agreed to play mixed doubles. The bigger question is this. Why did this pairing make sense to the people around them? Felix reportedly explained that the teams talked and helped make the partnership happen. That is the easy explanation. But then came the more interesting part. He mentioned the natural connection between the two players. And that is where the story becomes much more fascinating. Because this is not a partnership between two players who have spent years playing together. They are not established doubles specialists with a long history. This is a first-time combination. So what exactly does natural connection mean? Maybe it is friendship. Maybe it is personality. Maybe it is simply a shared understanding of what it feels like to compete at the highest level. Or perhaps it is something even simpler. They are both players who have been trying to prove that they belong at the very top. Felix has spent years dealing with the pressure that comes with being one of the game's most recognizable young stars. Alex is now entering that same world from a completely different direction. She had to fight her way upward. He had to carry expectations from the moment people realized how talented he was. Different journeys. Same destination. And that is where the pairing starts to make sense. Now look at their tennis. Alex brings a left-handed game, unusual angles, aggressive returns, and the ability to disrupt opponents who are comfortable playing against right-handers. Felix brings power, a huge serve, a dangerous forehand, and the ability to finish points quickly when the opening appears. Put those two skill sets together, and suddenly the partnership becomes much more interesting. Alex can create pressure. Felix can capitalize on it. Alex can change the geometry of the court. Felix can punish a weak response. One player creates the opening. The other can slam the door. And that is why this cannot simply be dismissed as a publicity stunt. There may be plenty of commercial value in the partnership, but there is also genuine tennis logic behind it. And here is where the story takes another turn. Alex's rise did not happen because somebody decided to promote her. It happened because the results became impossible to ignore. She climbed from outside the top 150. She reached the top 20. She collected major wins. She won her first WTA title. She defeated established stars. And she continued doing it while carrying an enormous schedule. That matters. Because there is a huge difference between being marketed as the next big thing and actually producing results that force people to treat you like one. Alex has crossed that line. The marketing did not create the momentum. The momentum created the marketing. And now the US Open gives her another opportunity. This time, she is not arriving as an unknown teenager hoping someone notices her. She is arriving with expectations. People are watching her. People are analyzing her. People are wondering how far she can go. And now, alongside her, will be Felix Auger-Aliassime. That alone guarantees attention. But it also creates something else. A spotlight. Every point they win will be watched. Every mistake will be discussed. Every moment of chemistry will become part of the narrative. And if they make a deep run, the conversation gets even louder. Suddenly, the mixed doubles partnership becomes more than a side story. It becomes another chapter in Alex Eala's transformation. Think about where she was only a short time ago. World number 147. Qualifying courts. Limited attention. A young player trying to establish herself. Now look at where she stands. A career-high ranking. A first WTA title. Victories over elite opposition. A growing international profile. And a partnership with one of the biggest names in men's tennis at the US Open. That is an unbelievable change in a very short period. And maybe that is what Felix's words were really revealing. Not that somebody made a business decision. Not that an agency simply found two available players. But that Alex has reached a level where these kinds of opportunities are beginning to feel natural. That is the biggest shift of all. A year ago, people would have asked why Alex Eala was getting the opportunity. Now they're asking what she might do with it. That is a completely different question. And it tells you everything about how quickly her position in tennis has changed. Rafael Nadal saw the potential early. Other legends began recognizing the mentality. Her results started speaking for themselves. And now Felix Auger-Aliassime is standing beside her at one of the biggest tournaments in the world. Maybe that natural connection is simply about two elite athletes understanding what it takes to survive under pressure. Maybe it is about their contrasting styles. Maybe it is about genuine chemistry away from the court. Or maybe it is all of those things at once. But one thing is becoming increasingly difficult to deny. Alex Eala is no longer being treated like a future star. She is being treated like someone who already belongs. And that distinction is enormous. Because the biggest stories in tennis do not always begin with a Grand Slam final. Sometimes they begin with a small decision that nobody pays attention to. A partnership. A conversation. A few words during an interview. A player saying there is a natural connection. And then, suddenly, everyone starts asking why. That may be what is happening right now. The US Open has not even fully begun, yet Alex Eala has already become part of one of its most intriguing stories. And if this partnership clicks on court, the attention will only become bigger. Because Alex is entering New York with something she did not have 2 years ago. Not just talent. Not just ambition. Belief. She has already proven she can beat champions. She has already proven she can handle pressure. She has already proven that rankings do not scare her. Now she gets another stage. Another opportunity. Another chance to show the tennis world that Washington was not a fluke. And maybe Felix Auger-Aliassime's comments were never meant to reveal some huge secret. Maybe the real message was sitting right there in plain sight. The partnership happened because the teams talked. But it works because both players have earned the right to be there. That is why this pairing matters. Not because Felix needs Alex. Not because Alex needs Felix. But because two very different tennis journeys have suddenly crossed at exactly the right moment. And the timing could not be more interesting. The US Open is here. The spotlight is getting brighter. The expectations are getting heavier. And Alex Eala is walking into it no longer as the player nobody knew. She is walking in as the player everybody suddenly wants to know more about. So forget the question of whether Alex belongs beside Felix. She has already answered that with her results. The question now is much bigger. What happens when the player who shocked the tennis world in singles finds the perfect stage to shock everyone again? Because if Alex Eala's rise has taught us anything, it is this. The moment you think you understand how far she can go, she moves the ceiling again. And the US Open may be the next place where she does exactly that.